Thousands of innocents have been killed in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine. However, the barbaric attack by Hamas comes amid the backdrop of a long-standing history of conflict over land and independence between the two. As Israel continues to conduct airstrikes on the Gaza Strip on day 8, the IAF has dropped about 6,000 bombs against Hamas targets. As per the big updates, Israel has ordered the evacuation of 1.1 million Palestinians to southern Gaza in 24 hours. We are providing minute-to-minute updates on Ritam. Today we have a very special guest speaker with us, Abhit Iyer Mitra. He is a senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. He has been actively posting his strong opinions on social media all this while. Welcome to the show, Abhijeet.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Okay. So, Abhijeet, as you know, this isn't the first conflict between Israel and Palestine, and it might not be the last. The terrorist attacks in Israel committed by Hamas against innocent civilians over the last week are the most sweeping, murderous assault on Jews that have taken place since the Holocaust in Europe, says the Congressman Jamie Ruskin while he was addressing a group of Indian Americans at an event. So my first question to you in this context: what does the future hold for Israel, a nation surrounded by Muslim countries on all sides?
Israel's future is bright because remember, their problem was with the Palestinians. With all the other countries around them, they've been at peace now for quite some time, right? Jordan has made peace with them. Saudi Arabia, it doesn't look like it in public, but Saudi Arabia and Israel have very good relations in private. The UAE has openly come out in their support. Jordan, again, they have very good relations with Jordan, but public may, Jordan has to condemn it. Public may, Egypt has to condemn it, otherwise their relations are very good. The only relations that are bad are Lebanon and Syria. Lebanon's economy is in shambles. Syria, you've seen after 12, 13, 14 years of civil war, is in complete shambles itself. So Israel is going to continue very, very strong. The issue is, what do you do with the Palestinian problem now? And I suspect the life for the Palestinians is going to get a whole load worse, right? That's not a solution. That's never a solution because it just buys you time for the next 20, 30 years till the next big attack happens, which might actually be even worse. But, sometimes that is all you can do. Sometimes in a marriage, you have to admit that, divorce is the best option. And going on fighting over your kid, unfortunately, is the best option. We're all adults and realistic. Not everything ends like a Disney fairy tale where, prince and princess marry and it's happily ever after.
Correct. Okay, so my next question, since we have all been following the war very closely, the world has witnessed the brutality of Hamas. Innocent kids have been killed. And Israel has vowed to eliminate Hamas entirely. But you think this is the path to lasting peace in Israel, and you think that it could, potentially create more adversaries against Jews worldwide?
Look, I think we're all seeing a huge increase in anti-Semitism, and that is worrying a lot of Israelis in general. And the campaign that is going to happen, a lot of kids are going to die because 50% of Gaza's population are children. They have a birth rate of close to 9, which means every house has 9 kids. Now it's down to 4, but in the 90s it was 9, so you can imagine the youth bulge out there. The median age is 18. Hindustan ka median age is 28, right? So it's a huge difference, much younger population. So it is going to lead to a very significant rise in anti-Semitism. We're going to see that over the next 5-10 years as the effects of what is going to happen in Gaza over the next few months plays out, number one. Number two, it's important to realize that they are not going to be able to finish Gaza in this campaign. Finish Hamas in this campaign. And there's a reason for it. You remember what America tried in Afghanistan. They went on fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan, but the entire Taliban leadership that was based in Pakistan, or in fact, run by the ISI out of ISI headquarters, the Americans could never target. Now, Hamas's leadership is disaggregated across the world. Mostly they live in Doha, in Qatar. Nobody lives in Tehran, but some live in Turkey.
Their leader lives there. The leader is also
Three of their leaders, their big leaders, and about 10, 12 other big leaders live in Doha, and one or two live in Cairo. But mostly it is Doha, followed by Turkey, followed by Lebanon, followed by Egypt. That is where the main things are. Now, Doha, Qatar, is a treaty ally of the United States. An attack on Qatar equals an attack on the United States. How are you going to get rid of the leadership out there? And Doha has pretty much bought so much. The Democratic Party is in Doha's pocket. Okay, you look at, they invest heavily in these left liberal channels. And Al Jazeera is one of the gold standards of Muslim reporting and considered the gold standard of Muslim reporting in America and all of that. They've invested heavily in these left-leaning think tanks like Brookings and whatnot. I would say about 10 to 15% of the staffers of the Biden administration would have probably in some form or the other received funding from Qatar. So what are they going to do? So this is problematic. They won't let you go after the main leadership. Turkey will not let you go after the main leadership. No country will let you carry out a reciprocal attack on their territory. So, आप सांप के बच्चों को मार रहे हो, but you're not killing the snake itself.
Correct.
Killing baby rats doesn't solve the problem of killing the mother rat.
Yeah.
Where is the plan to kill the mother rat? Right? You're still attacking, in many ways, it's like if you get jaundice and you're yellow, the doctor isn't giving you treatment for your liver. They're giving you treatment. They give you, Chanel or Christian Dior ka makeup powder compact, saying, you're looking a bit yellow, apply white powder on your face. How do you solve a problem with that? So I don't see this solving the problem at all.
Which brings me to the next question. Speaking of Americans, the United States is currently under democratic leadership, and Biden is showing full support to the Israelis. Democratic leadership has historically have not been as supportive as Republicans. So how do you view President Biden's pro-Israel stance overall in the current political landscape for United States?
It's convenient posturing, and that's it. It will be he will pull the plug when he can. This is a very similar phenomenon you see between Indians and Jews, Hindus and Jews in America. That the Republican Party supports India more and Israel more, but the overwhelming majorities of Hindus and Jews in America tend to be Democrats, vote for Democrats, even though the Democrats spew the most horribly anti-Jewish and anti-Hindu theories. And in fact, it is the Hindus and Jews of America that are the cheerleaders of wokeism out there. You look at every woke movement, about 30% of them will be Jews, 20% will be Hindus, and the remaining 50%, Black Lives Matter mein de aap dekh lo. 30% will be Jews, 20% will be Hindus. Are we black? No. Are you black? No. But they will be there supporting all this nonsense. And the remaining 50% will be black people. So see, there is a fundamental contradiction in that vote bank. The Hindu vote bank and the Jewish vote bank out there. Biden has to appease these vote banks because right now the Jewish vote bank is very, very angry.
That's a struggle.
Their normal wokeism has, for now, in about 2 weeks, their wokeism will be back.
Okay.
Once pictures start coming out from Gaza of more children dying and things like that, they will also turn on Israel. But till then, he's going to posture. But this whole thing starts with Bill Clinton. That is where the history of it begins. What happens is, Bill Clinton doesn't like Netanyahu. Because Bill Clinton's belief is, and remember, Bill Clinton became president immediately after the USSR collapsed. USSR collapsed under George Bush, but George Bush lost that election. That was the 1992 or the 94 election, I forget. And so it was Bill Clinton who got the George Bush Sr. It was Bill Clinton who presided. Now, when you've won a war, there is this feeling of triumphalism. You're the only superpower left. Everybody should listen to me. And in those days, China wasn't very powerful. China was still emerging at that point of time. China was where India is today. So what happened was he decided to impose his worldview on every other country. He bombed Kosovo, he bombed Serbia, he bombed many countries in order to impose. America will tell you what the solution is. You people will not make your own solutions on the ground. He tried this with Israel and Netanyahu pushed back against him. Since then, huge parts of the Democratic Party start hating Netanyahu and Israeli policy under right-wing governments. Right? Now, when George Bush Jr. comes to power after Bill Clinton, he reverses that policy. But then again, remember, hatred in the Democratic Party is still there. And when Obama comes, Obama becomes the most viciously anti-Israel president around. He actually brought this mindset within the bureaucracy of America that Israel is an enemy. They were cut out of all the intelligence sharing. In fact, the Americans started spying on the Israelis. They would use their base in Cyprus, the joint American-British base in Cyprus, to hack into Israeli drones to prevent them from attacking the Iranian nuclear reactor. Right? If there was ever a plan, precautionarily they took this away. They actually planted bugs in Netanyahu's own office. Okay, I don't think many Indians know about this, but they did. They hired a guy, a naval marine, who was clearly an intelligence agent, to live in a high-rise directly facing Netanyahu's office, and they had a very sophisticated laser device based on voice modulation. And the way it affects that very fine laser, it can predict what's being said. So all kinds of fancy technology they put to spy. There was a complete break between Israel and America, right? Which then again improved under Trump, and you saw how much peace Trump brought to the region. He did more for peace than the last, 50, 60 years of American presidents have done in the Middle East. Now Biden comes in. I don't think because, we don't read Hebrew, we don't realize how much gali galoch the Israeli cabinet have given Biden. There are serving ministers in cabinet who have called Biden a terrorist and a terror overground worker and things like that. Right? Yeah. But now they won't talk about it. But because they don't talk about it now, don't think Biden doesn't have that at the back of his mind.
Correct.
Hating screw Netanyahu and Likud over, he just won't do it.
They've managed to catch Israel and Mossad off guard, and initially they killed 1,300 civilians. There were rejoicing also among Hamas terrorists that maybe, and their supporters also, by the way, worldwide, during the first few hours of the war. However, the way Israel is now retaliating in the kind of aggression and 6,000 bombs in 6 days, targeting 749 buildings in just a night. How do you think this unprecedented counteroffensive, how do you look at it?
I think this counteroffensive is a mistake. I'll tell you why. It's because it's born of rage.
Yeah.
You should never enter a fight because you're angry. You should enter a fight when you're sure of winning. They're very angry. They want immediate action to settle their bloodlust. I don't think they've thought things through, and I'm quite worried about the direction that this campaign is going to take. What we're going to see is, as I understand it from the military deployments and satellite imagery, is that they're going to divide Gaza into 3 zones. They're going to sanitize the north first. Then they'll move to the center, and all the people displaced from the north will be moved back up north. But when that happens, before moving, they will check everybody to see if their hands, if you fired a gun residue, it doesn't matter how much you wash your hands and things, the gun residue will last on your hands for months. It doesn't go. And it can be detected. So they will be able to figure out who has handled explosives or whatever when people go up north again. They'll do this in the center and find, Hamas knows that it'll get caught. I suspect there'll be a rat trap right at the south where a whole bunch of Hamas guys will get caught.
They are moving towards south, right?
They are moving. They're trying to move towards the south, but Egypt has blocked off this. Egypt also, of course, refusing to allow refugees in. Egypt's worry is if they all leave Gaza once, Israel will never let them back in. Right? You don't want Gaza. Gaza has been very problematic. It was under Egyptian control till 1967. And when the 79 peace deal was signed, Egypt literally said, please don't give us back Gaza, you keep it. And the Israelis were like, oh yeah, lovely. They're actually giving it to us. They didn't realize that in the wine glass they had added a little drop. You see? So yeah. So it was always problematic for them. I guess that is what is going to happen. And obviously the Hamas leadership abroad, they might try assassination and things like that. It may take a while. It may fructify after a point of time. But see, the thing is when Osama bin Laden was killed, he was no longer relevant to Al-Qaeda.
Correct.
So his killing actually didn't really achieve much.
That raises another question, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time Khalid Mashal and Ismail Haniya are killed in Doha, their relevance to the system would have been, because they're now so scared of assassination, they'll cluster themselves, bunker themselves. They won't have the ability to control the organization.
True.
In which case, a younger generation of leadership that is much more radicalized, much more bloodthirsty, and probably much smarter will be emerging, which Israel will not focus on. In their focus on Ismail Haniya and Khalid Mashal and people like
You
that.
mean scarier than this one, what they are doing right now?
Yeah, probably.
That's a bigger threat coming up.
A bigger threat coming up, yeah. And that's what I suspect.
Okay. So as we can see, this is not just a war on the ground. It's a bigger propaganda war going on. Hamas supporters sitting in our country justifying the brutal killings of Israeli children and women, raping of the women, amplifying the propaganda from Gaza, as you mentioned in one of your tweets also. So how to fight this war?
It's very important that we understand that, people like this fact checker and his cohorts, they operate exactly like Hamas. What does Hamas do? It hides behind Palestinian women and children and puts them in harm's way. And those people can't speak up and say, get out of my house because Hamas has an AK-47 pointed at their child. Okay? That is the situation Indian Muslims are in. We make this big mistake in saying, oh, Indian Muslims are supporting Hamas. They're not. There is a whole bunch of these so-called elite leadership Ashraf Muslims and some non-Ashraf Muslims who are desperately trying to become Ashraf Muslims through association. I think, that what I'm talking about is too black to be an Ashraf, but he's trying to whiten himself. He's trying to whitewash himself through association and enter the leadership ranks. He's in fact blacker than my black Labrador, but it is what it is. We need to understand, do not allow congregation. When you lack nuance, you unite the community. They don't unite. You have to exacerbate the fact that these Hamas overground workers like Fact Checker and his ilk and the journos who are supporting terrorism are clearly separated from the community and then targeted ostracization and financial punishment doled out to them. There are lots of ways of doing that. But it is very important. Divide and rule, divide and rule, divide and rule. We need to learn from the Brits and we need to learn from the Qataris to divide and rule. Do not unite. Just because you feel something gutturally, it may not be true. We have seen some people do this on social media. Go after them. See to it their contracts. Go after. You can go to the registrar of companies and find out who all have donated to these things. Start doxing.
But there is another threat. I mean, there have been trends going on. What do you say about that? There have been trends running since the war started.
Yes, there have been trends running. And, the thing is, this is not something we can do because this is something the government has to get in touch with.
Exactly.
Twitter and find out, or Facebook or Insta or whatever, and find out who has been running these trends, because we don't, Twitter won't respond to our requests for who these people are. That is a governmental thing. And it's surprisingly the person who's acted on it is the government of Karnataka. There was a guy who was putting out all this crap, and he had his WhatsApp status was showing something fake of Palestinian kids being killed. It was the Karnataka police that called him in, and they got a written statement from community leaders saying that would not be spreading all this propaganda and things like that.
So I don't know how to deal with them, but thank you so much for your time, Abhijeet. The way Israel is retaliating now appears to be an unprecedented counteroffensive. The Israeli Air Force has struck 6,000 rockets in just 6 days, resulting in the flattening of cities in Gaza, cutting off water and electricity supplies. Gaza is literally choked. While the second group of 235 Bharatiya nationals from Israel arrived at Delhi airport on Saturday morning. Stay tuned for all the latest updates. Namaste.